we're off.
Okay, here we go again. When we finished last time on our overview, we were just talking about the degassing pipe on the burner. All our burners come with these degassing pipes. The idea is that in the preheat chamber, which is the waste oil's heated, that heating creates internal vapour, so the gases or the vapours need to escape. So we use a hydraulic coupling, female and male here, clipped together, and this degassing pipe, it's recommended it's a clear pipe because you can use it as to let you know how much oil is in the supply tank, because the oil in here will go up to the same level as the header tank or day tank that gravity feeds the waste oil down in the oil supply and into the burner gun. Okay, so always put if you don't buy from Kroll, this poly pipe, which is about 12mm poly pipe, 12.5mm, make sure you get a clear one so you can see how much oil is in there. Okay, so that's the degassing pipe. Just another quick connector on here that's just a little guy, but pretty important, is down the bottom is and I'll just get my finger there, is a drain cock. Now, we recommend that you just open that drain cock up after turning the oil supply off. Turn this drain cock off, and that'll just drain any water that's built up in the bottom of the preheat tank. Okay, so I'd recommend doing that about once every 2 weeks to 4 weeks as well. Okay, let's work our way around to the other side of the burner gun, and we'll just point out the major features here. The 7-pin standard burner plug. On the burner gun itself, it's female sockets, and then your burner will have to be fitted with the 7-pin male. Okay, just very briefly, these pins are labelled internally. That's active, earth, neutral, and T1, T2. The burner will start burning when there's a short circuit applied across T1, T2. So typically that's a room thermostat calling for heat and putting a short across there, or the boiler thermostat calling for heat. Okay, so that's how you turn the gun. The gun is not a modulating gun, it's either off or it's on. Okay, so second very important thing is we might talk to customers and say, we want you to look through the eyepiece. That's the eyepiece. It lets you have a safe look at the gun while it's starting and burning. So you know, you can see when you turn the gun on, you should be able to see like a lightning in the distance. That's the spark across the electrode. Okay. All right, just coming back around here. This big guy here. Hardly anything ever goes wrong with these BR motors. They are a really solid unit. You should keep the air inlet here so it can cool itself clear and clean. That's the motor. But the only thing that ever goes wrong with these is after about 8 to 10 years the bearings might wear out. The windings, we've never had one go. The on-off switch. Okay, start or stop, on or off. And that's what it does. Electrically, that's in series with the T1, T2 we mentioned earlier. The PE cell, that's it there. You can see the little window there. Okay. And that plugs back into the barrel of the scroll. And the idea of that is the controller here, electronics, monitors this for darkness and for light. Okay, the one or the other. And funny enough, when it's going to start up, it's looking for darkness because it doesn't want a fire to be in the combustion chamber. In fact, it'll go out on flame failure if it sees light when it tries to start. After about 12 seconds and the gun goes into ignition phase and the solenoid valve we mentioned earlier opens up, you'll normally get ignition. Well, then the PE cell's looking for that light, and it's very sensitive. It looks for a stable light. for about 25-second window. If the light is stable and not going dark and off and on and carrying on, then the ignition transformer will turn off and so on. Okay, so that's the PE cell. Recommend you always have a PE cell spare, and if you're in a remote location, we recommend you always have a spare ignition transformer. Okay, so that's the major overview of the BR10 burner. We'll just quickly move over to my right here and go back to the BR5. Now you can see that, you know, this is just a scaled down version of the BR10. All the things you've seen before, like the diffuser plate, the nozzle, the electrodes, the heat rod are there, the ignition transformer, everything is in the same position. And we'll stop for now, and the next video we'll put on is first in maintenance or basic maintenance of the BR10. Okay, so thanks very much.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're ready to go. Okay, these the objective of this little video today is to just see the major components of a couple of our popular small burner guns. This one on my right here is the BR5. That's about a 50 kilowatt burner, and you can see it's a BR5 pretty quick because it's about our only small burner that's in the blue colour. And then on my left here is a BR10. This is a burner that produces a flame up to about 100 to 110 kilowatts, which is about 900 to 800 millimeters long. You'll immediately notice similarities between the two burners. Pretty much all the changes with the BR series burners is you want a bigger flame, the size of the burner gets bigger. So functionally they're virtually identical. Okay, so let's have a look at the BR10, and there'd be hundreds of these around Australia. This is where the flame comes out, so we'll take this blast tube off, and to do that I'm going to have to remove very quickly a grub screw here and remove the blast tube. And what we're going to do is just have a look at the nozzle and the electrodes and have a quick chat about them. Let's put that down over there. Okay, so this is the business end of the burner. It's this steel nozzle, which is quite large, which is where the vapour comes out and is ignited by this pair of electrodes sitting above it. Okay, even at this stage it's worth mentioning, obviously you don't like to have a lot of carbon build-up around here, so a lot of people have problems with poor ignition can be due just to carbon build-up. That's fixed very easily. It's just by wiping the electrodes. We'll talk more about that later. This ring around here is, we call it here a diffuser ring or a diffuser plate, and the idea of this thing is to create, push the vapours forward and create a spiral twisting vapour stream which is ignited and produces a spiral of flame. Has a very nice effect. Okay, just coming back here a little bit, you'll see these porcelain pipes here, insulators there. They're just to support this pair of electrodes here. Coming back here is one of the modifications that we do here, and there's a little heat rod there, and that heat rod keeps the vapours nice and warm as they shoot forward down this nozzle pipe. Okay, let's go back and look at the body of the BR10 here. If you're talking to us on the phone, we'll normally refer to this as the scroll. It's the chassis of the burner, and it's very solid and very heavy. Sitting above that is the ignition transformer. It produces the spark. Sitting behind that is the controller, and it's got various safety functions, such as detecting that the there's a nice flame, and also looking for darkness at the beginning of the ignition phase. This button here is a flame failure switch, and that'll go bright red if the burner's gone out for some reason. Okay, just moving back over here. Major pieces on this are the silver wheel here, which you adjust by slightly undoing the brass nut and increasing the amount of oil or flame length. The bigger the number, the bigger the flame. Now when you do that, obviously if you're adding more fuel to the fire or the flame, you've got to increase the air. So you would open up this what's called secondary air supply window here to give it more air. Okay, so part of trimming the burner gun and setting it up is to get the oil and air combination right, and that's very simple. But if you get it wrong, it looks horrible and you get horrible black smoke coming out of the flue. Well, when the gun's trimmed okay, nice, no problems there. Okay, okay, so that's the silver wheel to adjust the flame length. Sitting on the back here, I'm going to remove a cover, and what we're going to see is the heat rod and the thermostat that senses the oil temperature set point inside the burner. Okay, so just pull that out and remove the loom of wires here. And what we can see is up here we've got a thermostat, and it's got a wheel on it, and currently right now that's set to 80, just under 80, now it's on 80. This thermostat turns off and on a heat rod here that fits in the back of the preheat chamber here. And the idea of the heat rod and the thermostat is to get the waste oil up to a nice, dribbly, viscous shape, so that it'll create a nice vapour and we'll have no ignition problems. Okay, so that's the heat rod, that's the thermostat. From time to time we might ask people to increase or decrease that temperature depending on the type of oil. If it's real dribbly oil, we might ask them to turn it down to about 30 to 40 degrees. Okay. While we're over here, just sitting under the silver wheel here is a Y strainer or Y filter that we add here at the factory, and this draws hot oil in from the preheat chamber, and that oil is drawn through and up into here via a little pump that's hidden inside this housing. Okay. Now that Y strainer has to be cleaned and examined periodically. We'd recommend initially when you get a burner gun to check it out after 2 weeks or at least 4 weeks, and it depends on the quality of your waste oil. The more rubbish is in it, the more dirt will end up in here. So that's a filter. It's very important. It's small, but it's important. And there's another filter over here that's the major oil input strainer. Now this fitting here is a 1/2 inch to 1 inch oil pipeline, and the waste oil comes in gravity fed into the preheat chamber here, and that's our oil supply. Okay, all that oil runs through a quite a coarse strainer here. Now I've got one here. Okay, there's a spare preheat tank. It looks identical to that one over there. And we'll just have a quick look at this. This is another very important little filter, and it's only about a 1mm mesh or slightly less, but it'll catch any rubbish that comes out of your oil supply system. Okay, now it's very important again for you people that have just got a new burner gun that you check this out and clean it about every 2 weeks to 4 weeks. If you do get a gun and it's all running nice, you have a look at it after 2 weeks, and if it's real clean, then you don't have to do it again. You know, maybe have a look at it 4 weeks later and so on. But if it's filthy, then maybe you should check it out every week. Okay, so two filters that you must clean. The Y strainer filter here and this the main filter here. By the way, that's a 32mm hex head. Okay, so they're the filters. Just quickly above that, how much time have we got to go, Jim?
2:26.
Okay, just above that, what we've got, this pump, its output, okay, so just backing up a little bit, inside here I mentioned before there's a pump, it's a little piston pump, and the amplitude of that piston, or the size of the swing and the pressure it creates, is varied by the silver wheel there. Okay, so the bigger flame, you want a bigger flame, more pressure. Its output comes in here. Now this oil, hot oil, comes out of there and goes into this thing called a solenoid valve. Okay, now this solenoid valve is switched off or on through this cable, 240 volts, by the controller. Sometimes this can end up with some rubbish in it, and we might ask you to take the 1, 2, 3 connections off that and disassemble it and clean it. That doesn't happen that often, but that might happen to you. It's about a 5-minute job to pull it apart and clean it. Okay, we'll get back onto that later. Just while we're okay, so that's the solenoid valve. If you hear us mention the word solenoid valve, or you read about it in the manual that comes with all the burner guns and is available on our website for free, that's the solenoid valve. Okay, just another couple of points of interest. The air input, the air gets sucked into the oil-air mixing chamber, which is built into the preheat tank. That's the air input there. It's quite simple. It just sucks air in from inside the scroll. The output, once oil and air have been mixed together and compressed slightly by the internal compressor here, the oil goes out to the nozzle via the oil pipeline. So that's the oil output. So that's in fact got mist in it. So that'll have the oil and the air mixed, slightly compressed, and a nice little vapour, and that squirts out to the nozzle, and that gets ignited. Okay, just another major item here is we've got the degassing pipes. Okay, so the next time we'll see you, we'll just continue on our little chat here. So that's the degassing pipe. Bye for now. Okay, welcome back to this is the third little video for, and now we're going to talk about first in maintenance of the BR series again on the BR10 burner. Just before we get too excited, there's 3 or 4 things I'm just going to show you. One is you will need a 32mm ring spanner. You will need some sort of toothbrush. You will need a bunch of rags, the more the merrier, and optionally we might talk about using something like Mr. Muscle here to help get the goo off the diffuser plate. Let me just warn you, and the warning's written on the back of these, this stuff's explosive. Do not do it anywhere near anything that's hot, so you know, let everything cool down. Okay, now this does work pretty well on a lot of oil types that have gunked up the diffuser plate. We'll talk about that a bit later. Okay. Just another thing is, this is the installation and operating guide and for the BR series burners. Now, you know, everything we've talked about and will talk about is covered inwards in here. So this, you get a copy with the burner, and you can download as many as you like for nothing off our website. Okay, so that's got everything in it and the maintenance procedures. Okay. All right, now let's make a start here. Assuming we have turned off the power, everything's cooled down. Okay. Now this is a nice clean diffuser ring, but one that's been burning for a week or 2 or 3 or 4 might have been coked up with all sorts of goo. So what you would want to do is try and wipe the goo off, and you can kind of see a little bit of this waxy residues coming off there. Now if you don't get anywhere with that, you could try some Mr. Muscle on there, spray it on, give it 5 or 10 minutes, and then wipe it off with a rag or with the toothbrush. You've got to experiment a little bit, because the amount of goo here and how hard it is pretty much depends on the nature of the waste oil, and that can vary. Okay, so very important to get these slots here clean so that the air can get through them. Okay, and it's very important that you get these electrodes nice and clean on the end here, so you get a nice clean spark. Okay, the nozzle here, the book says you can take that off, pull it apart, there's a whizzer inside. In our experience, that's rarely necessary. Okay, now when you're fiddling around and cleaning your diffuser plate and the electrodes, you might get things out of position. Well, the book tells you exactly how to put things back in the correct position. Now, don't stress about this too much. It's not that critical. It's not that critical, the positioning of everything, but the book does tell you that. Pretty much the only tools you need are a flat blade screwdriver and about a 2.5mm Allen driver here. And you know, if you have sort of bent things out of position, no problems, just you know, you can push things back in. The critical thing to watch here is that if you just get the camera down right down there, is to make sure that there's about a 3mm gap between the electrodes, and that the position of the pair of electrodes and that 3mm gap is not too close to any metal around it. It's not too close to that edge of the diffuser, and it's not too close to the nozzle. So pretty much midpoint, and you'll have no problems at all. Okay, and again, the intention here of cleaning it is to get these air gaps clean and get any carbon away from the ignition electrodes, which will give you ignition problems. And that's pretty much all you have to worry about at this end of any of the BR series burner guns. Okay, so now let's move over to a BR20 burner that we've got fitted to a boiler here. Okay, so now what we're going to do, everybody, is look at cleaning the heat rod. Now, the heat rod will absolutely need checking once to twice per year, and if it's a more commercial environment, like in a greenhouse burner gun where you're burning a lot more fuel, maybe 3 times a year. Again, it tends to get down to the oil you're using, how hot the thermostat is set to, and what your ambient temperature in your climate is. So what you've got to do, obviously, make sure all power's off, and so on and so on. And what we're going to do is we're going to remove this heat rod. To do that, this is one of the newer heat rods. What we're going to do is disconnect the wires, which takes about maybe about 10 to 20 seconds. Might be a tip if you want to maybe make a diagram of what wires go where. If you ever get in trouble, you could always check with the book, or take a photo for your records, just in case you think you've you know, dislocated one of the wires later. So just put that aside. Okay, what we can see is there's our heat rod, and we're going to grab our 32mm ring spanner again. Notice we've got this gun sitting over an oil tray. In our case here on our workbench, into a sink with a mesh. Okay, so now we'll just give it a little tap, and there we go. Again, these things, everything on our machines is pretty much just pinch tight, and a little bit sometimes. Okay, so here's a heat rod. This heat rod's done maybe 300 hours service, but okay, and that's actually in very good condition. What's interesting here is on this BR10, the heat rod sits in a little chamber that's physically separate from the bottom chamber we removed our stainless steel major filter from before. And this has got a build-up of like Vaseline goo on it. You can see there. That's just sitting there. Okay, so, but we've removed heat rods that have had so much carbon build up on them and so on that it's almost impossible to remove them from the... So, but that's the way. And now again, while this thing's apart, you want to grab your toothbrush and get in there and clean all that goo out, okay, while you're in there. So we'll get our little brush in, and again you can see there's some sludge. So you want to get as much of that out as possible. Okay. If you're real keen, you might want to flush that out with some Kero or parts cleaner. Okay, now the next thing, this one's in very good condition, this heat rod, but let's pretend that it's covered in a thick layer of carbon. What we would do here is take it over to the wire wheel and give it a clean. To make a rapid. These things are very tough. And so on until the entire heat rod's clean. Okay, and so on. So you clean the entire heat rod, reinsert it, pinch it up, and you're pretty much all done. Okay, so just back it up a little bit. The three major elements in the preheat tank to clean are this heat rod once or twice a year, the major filter here, I'd be looking at that at least every 2 weeks or every 4 weeks and cleaning it. Same with this guy. And of course the other thing you want to clean maybe every week or two, give it a wipe in your boiler, swing the door open, get at the diffuser here and get all that nice and clean. Okay, so that's pretty much it.